In the previous video, we learned a little about the behavior of the pen tool, and I just wanted to add to that knowledge by showing you how to trace an image using the pen tool. So for the purposes of this demonstration, let's just say I'm creating a logo, and I'd like to add a leaf graphic to the logo. Now I could try to draw a leaf, but I might want it to look a little more realistic. So when choosing an image to trace, make sure that you're not going to Google and choosing an image. It would really stink to copy an image just to find out that you're being sued for copyright infringement. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, let's not promote that. And I am definitely not promoting that in my videos either. So there are actually websites you can go to that have copyright-free images you can use for your own purposes. A few of those websites include pexels.com, unsplash.com, as well as pixabay.com. So let's find a free-to-use image, and I'm going to use the magic of video editing to open up unsplash.com. Alright, here we are in Unsplash. I'm just going to go ahead and type in leaf. Now if you have a certain leaf that you want to type in, like an oak leaf or dogwood leaf or whatever, go ahead and do that. I just want to kind of look at all the different types of leaves that could be available. So leaf, enter. Now the one thing you have to watch for is iStock likes to come into these websites and sort of coax you into looking at their photos. But their photos you have to pay for the rights to use, and we don't want to pay for anything. So make sure that you are not accidentally choosing an iStock photo. Keep scrolling, and then you're into the Unsplash photos, and just find one that works for you. Okay, well I kind of like this one right here by Quing Javier. I have no idea if I just murdered that person's name. I'm so sorry if I did, but at least he has a cute cat picture. But this is the image that I want to use, so I'm going to go ahead and click on this little download photo button, and it'll bring me to the File Explorer. I'm going to save it where I would like to. For my students, you should probably save in your Z drive, but because I'm on my desktop at home, I'm just going to go ahead and click the downloads, and I have already practiced this video a little bit, so I already have leaf down here. I'm going to go ahead and click on that and see how it updates the file name here. Leaf, that's what I named it. Go ahead and click save when you're ready. Yes, I want to replace it. You probably won't have that pop up. Alright, so now that we have an image, we can turn our attention to Adobe and get our logo artboard set up. So if you haven't already gotten Adobe Illustrator up and running, now is the time to do so. In general, logos are relatively small, so I'm going to create a unique file. So I'm going to click on the blue New File button. And I'm going to change it to inches because, once again, I don't generally think of size in terms of points. And I'm going to create a 3" by 3" artboard. And I'm going to leave the rest as it is. Eventually we're going to turn our logo into a JPEG or PNG or a TIFF file, so don't worry too much about the size. We want to keep it generally small, but when you go to insert a JPEG into like Word, for example, you can always resize that image as you need to. So that's why I generally start logos at 3", and then I can kind of adjust it if I feel like I need to. That's the beauty of Illustrator. You can adjust the size without creating pixelization. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and hit create. And here's my 3x3 artboard. It does look like a square, so that's perfect. So the first thing I want to do is I want to insert the image that I saved from Unsplash into this artboard. So I'm going to go up to File, and I'm going to go to Place. And then I'm going to navigate the filing system. I'm already at the downloads, but you might have to navigate your file system to find the spot where you saved your leaf picture. Click and highlight that leaf, and then go ahead and click on Place once you find it. You'll see that your cursor changes, and that indicates that the image is now ready to be placed. So click anywhere on the screen. Now if your image is like mine, it ended up being really big compared to my artboard. So if I do a Control minus to zoom out, you'll kind of see my artboard in the very top left corner, and this is how large that picture actually ended up being. So we definitely need to shrink this down. So there's a few ways that you can go about doing this. One way is going up to Object in your menu bar. Choose Transform, and you'll see this little side panel sort of pops up, and you can choose Scale. I do want to scale this uniformly, and so I definitely need to make it small. So I'm going to try 10% because this is just ginormous. So I just type 10 where it says uniform, and then I click OK. Well, that's much smaller if you're able to see it. You might have to, again, zoom out so that you can see what happened to the image. But I'm just going to make sure that the black arrow is chosen in the toolbar. I'm going to move it closer to my image. And I feel like I still need to make this a little bit smaller. So I can actually take the black arrow and I can play with these little grips and drag them inside. But one thing you should notice is that the image can skew if you're scaling down. So make sure that you hold down the Shift button while you're scaling, and you should see that it scales down uniformly. So something kind of like this is what our aim is. You can have it as big or as large as you need it to. This is just demonstration purposes, really. I'm going to go ahead and move this image onto the artboard itself, just because in general, a good habit is to draw on the artboard. Let's go ahead and actually look at the layers panel. So I already had mine up and running, but the layers panel is the two pieces of paper on top of each other over here on the side panel. And I'm going to go ahead and click on that little arrow next to layer 1. And here you see it says linked file. So basically that's the file that we placed, and you can see a little thumbnail of that leaf. Let's go ahead and do the good habit and rename this. I'm just going to call it leaf image, and that will help me be able to understand that this was the original leaf image that I'm working with. And then I'm also going to go ahead and click on the little empty space that was next to the eyeball so that the lock appears. And now I've locked it into place, so I can't accidentally move this image, I can't accidentally rescale it, I can't accidentally select it. It is stuck, frozen in time. Look out, Anna and Elsa, we're coming through. To start tracing the leaf, let's go ahead and choose the pen tool and choose a good place to start tracing. So I'm going to grab the pen tool, and you can see it's activated. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. You know, I think one thing that students do often is they trace images that are too small on their screen, and then they kind of have some problems. So make sure that you make that leaf nice and large. Perfect. Just like this. Alright, so I am going to have this layer trace underneath layer 1. And I'm going to go ahead and turn off the white fill using the None color. And then I'm also going to change this color to red, because red's the contrasting color to green. That'll make it much easier to see when I'm tracing. So now that the colors are updated, I'm going to start over here on the right side of this leaf. I'm going to click to place my first pen drop, and that shows you that it's wanting you to continue with the pen tool. Now there's not a lot of straight parts, maybe on the stem a little bit, but the goal when you're tracing is to really try to look and see where is there a full arc on this leaf. So it kind of looks like there's a small little arc that kind of starts here and ends here. Do you see how when I put that straight line, there's an arc that goes underneath that straight line, and then it kind of meets up kind of back here. So that's how you can kind of tell, well, where all the arcs are, and that's all you're doing with the pen tool is you're drawing arcs. So I'm going to click and hold, and that's going to activate the ability to curve. And see where that little arm is going? See that arm with the circle on it? Watch how the further out I go, the more that the arc reacts to it. So the little ball on the arm is really a great guide. You kind of want to get it so that it comfortably fits. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but you want to get it somewhat close. Right like that. See how that is? And then I'm going to let go of my mouse. So there's the first line. I'm not really too concerned about it being so thick. Again, it's just demonstration purposes. But there we've got the first little curve to our leaf. Now the next step is going to be to create this next curve. So again, you kind of have to look and see, where does this curve end? I kind of feel like I can get a nice solid curve until I get to like maybe right about here. Another mistake that students do is they do like a little curve, a little curve, a little curve, a little curve. Look for as big of a curve as you can possibly get on this leaf shape. The other thing I just want to point out is, do you see how it's automatically wanting to make a curve on its own? Yeah, I'm going to reset it so that I can have a little bit more control of the curve. So to reset, you simply click on that last point you placed, and it should go back to a straight line. Again, find that spot where you want to kind of like drop a point and click and drag, and again adjust that little arm. You might have to kind of work with your third wheel while you're pressing down on your left mouse button, but again your goal is to try and get that line to match up. Now if you feel like you're struggling with this, where I'm actually working it out with ease, I have a lot of experience with Illustrator, so it took me a good year to really feel like I had control of the pen tool. So don't feel like you have to master it right away. It's going to take you some time, but do your best to try and get it so that that line matches up pretty darn well with your leaf, and then drop it. And our goal is to try and get smooth transitions where it's going from one arc into the next. So that looks lovely. Again, I'm going to reset my pen tool. This is just my habit because I like having full control. And so I feel like right here I can see another arc happening, but here's this arc right here. So I'm going to go about right here, click and drag, watch how that little circle on that arm makes that arc react. Drop it like it's hot. Oh yeah. Reset. And I kind of feel like the arc is about like right here. Again, it takes a little time to see the arcs. If you're not seeing it, just try to follow where I'm placing it as best you can. Hopefully you can see the arcs. There we go. And then there's this little baby arc that's kind of right here. And it actually kind of has a little bit more arc on the tip of that stem than it does kind of on the back part of the stem. So that's why my arm's a little short and it's a little closer to that point that I started compared to the others. Beautiful. Click back on that point to reset. I can do probably a straight line here. I don't think anybody's going to know the difference, right? There we go. Now I don't have to reset it after I do a long or a straight piece. So I can just go ahead and click, but you can kind of already tell that there's a little baby arc kind of happening. And I'm just trying to get it to form by clicking and holding and dragging. And then I see another arc right here. Now I did not reset because I feel like the arc it was giving me was great, but I am going to reset it here. So just looking at this, I kind of feel like maybe right in here somewhere is where that next arc is. Again, you have to kind of play a little bit. Click to reset. I feel like maybe right here might be a good spot. Reset. It's kind of an interesting shape up here. So I'm just going to do a little baby one, and then it kind of concaves a little bit. Do you see that? Come up here, concave a little. It's not going to be absolutely perfect, but for the purposes of my logo, I'm pretty happy with how this shape turned out. Now, if I feel like I want it to come down a little bit more, see how that, I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see that. See how it kind of peaks up a little bit more? Take that white arrow, and then you can adjust this little arm. And you can also adjust the grips if you feel like maybe you need to make it a little closer. Now, what I don't want to do is have this little point on the line because it makes it look not accurate. So I'm going to just keep adjusting just a little bit so I don't get that little angle or corner on the line. And there we've completed our leaf, because in order to complete it, I had to go back to that very first point that I placed in order to complete the shape. So now that I have that, I'm going to zoom out. And you can see that I have this shape. If I want to just look at the shape itself, I can unhide, or I can hide the leaf image. And there's the shape if I want to give it a fill. A lot of times what I do is I click on the black arrow and then click off so that I can deselect, and then I reselect, and then the menu bar kind of pops up. Sometimes it hides for some reason. But here I can decide if I want to do this, if I want to change the color of the leaf, or something else you can do too is if you just want to have an outline but maybe you want to play with like the thickness of the lines. I can come here, let's do 4 points so you can see it, and then we can play with the uniformity a little bit so that you can kind of see some different ways of getting your shape to come through. So that one's kind of unique. What else do we got here? Ooh, I kind of like that one. Yeah. Ooh, look at that one. I kind of like that second one, so I'm going to stick with the second one. Oop, you make sure that your shape is highlighted or else it's not going to change. There we go. So let's say that I like that shape. That's the graphic that I want to use for my logo. Now, for those of you who are just starting out with tracing, you might need to play this video over. You might need to pause it and stop it and play it and kind of work with it. But please take your time, really work with how to get those curves in there. And then once you're done, you can come back over here and you could potentially, if you're done tracing, go ahead and delete this leaf image. And how I'm going to delete it is I'm going to have it highlighted in the layers panel, and then I just click on the little trash can at the bottom. And there it's gone. And now we just have layer 1. Let's go ahead and name this, because it's always a good habit to name it. I'm going to name it Leaf Line Work. And then I can always rename layer 1 as well. I'm just going to go ahead and name that Leaf. So if I wanted to add more shapes or line work or anything else to this leaf, and I wanted to like move it all together, almost kind of like it's blocked together, then I would at least know that layer leaf has all the line work and all the shapes that are inside of that leaf. I hope that makes sense. And I hope you enjoyed tracing with the pen tool. Definitely let your instructor know if you have questions, and otherwise we're going to keep moving on.